This episode of the View from the Rock podcast is brought to you by Sign Dog Northwest. They're your source for custom signs, banners, boat names, fleet graphics, and more. Custom design services available. In addition, this podcast is brought to you by Merle Inc. They are the premier custom home builder in the Cle-Elum area and a proud featured home builder in Suncadia Resort and Tumble Creek. Welcome to the View from the Rock podcast. I'm your host, Ruck. I'm here with Swapp and Morgie in the Yellow Dog Studios, and today, in this episode, we're going to be talking about top songs and albums from 1971. It was a great year. Happened to be the year that Swapp was born.
Oof.
And we're going to be talking about, I know.
You're old.
I'm old.
I didn't want to say it, but we're also going to be talking about our top 3 athletes that we'd like to meet. In the context of meeting, because that changes, is we'd have them on the podcast and we'd have some beers with them. You know, might be a little bit different. Swap, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're in the home stretch right now. We've got 11 shopping days until Christmas.
I thought you were going to say 4 days of school, which I would have agreed with.
Well, both of those are true. Two things can be true.
Fair.
I'm on cloud 9 right now.
Whoa, tell me more.
Just, you know, our kids playing sports right now.
Yeah.
It's going well.
It's going.
It's nice to be a dad right now and just watch your kids succeed.
So we've started the high school basketball season, and I saw a poll this week that has us ranked number 1 in the state.
Which is
If I was to be honest,
too high.
we've got a little work to do.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to earn that first.
Yeah. But it's been fun. We're 2-0. We went up to beautiful Deming, Washington on Saturday in a driving rainstorm.
That was the worst weather day of 2023, I think, or the fall.
Can you imagine being somebody that you don't know anything about anything and you're just driving to Deming and you get to Bellingham and take a right and you drive east,
14 miles.
but it feels like 50?
So what you just described was my wife and my mother-in-law, Tutu.
It was like the road to Hana for them.
They're like, it's so dark out here. Like, what's out here? I'm like, well, we're
Only bad
40
things.
minutes from Mount Baker.
Yeah, nothing against Mount Baker because, as I said,
No,
in the
Mount
last-
Baker, the mountain.
Well, I know, but a lot of good people out there, like I
Yes.
said last time. But you're driving out there, and there's nothing around, and then all of a sudden there's a high school. And It's
Yeah.
like, where do these people live?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my great-grandfather was born in Deming.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Had no
The
idea.
Morgenthalers are strong up there
I'll be damned.
in the early 1900s.
I've been up there several times for baseball, and every time we go up there, it hails.
How do you play a game there?
Well, where we parked is right next to their baseball field.
I'd love to find out what their grass is like as far as hitting grounders and stuff. But last time we talked about how terrible their facilities were, and probably don't need to talk about that because I felt a little bit guilty.
But they
'Cause,
do.
you know,
They do have
they-
a little.
people
they
like
do
the
the
dome.
best they can.
They like the little dome.
They have
Some
a little
people do.
dome. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
They have a little dome.
It's like an NBA field because it's a little darker in the stands,
Oh,
and then it's light on the court.
It almost feels like you're watching a game at the Hartford Civic Center. You're getting ready for Rowdy Roddy Piper to come out of the locker room. You know, I wonder if they've ever
That
had
could have happened.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
wow. Hey,
Real quick, though.
well, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So you're going to talk about girls basketball?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I was wondering about.
Oh.
So, you know, last time we, on break, after we talked about the boys, meant to talk about the girls team, and we messed up. We didn't talk about them. We got a lot of people on the team that we really love, not only athletes, but coaches. So we want to make sure we pay them some respect right now. Tell us, how are the girls doing so far?
Well, they're off to a great start. They were at the last recording. They were 4-0. They lost to Burlington, who's
Monday night.
yeah, perennial power.
They're good.
Yeah, Burlington's good.
They were close the whole game.
It was
Just kinda-
close.
yeah.
It was close the first half.
yeah.
Yeah.
They went on a run at the end of the half and then pulled away in the second half. But it was a great atmosphere, and they're playing hard. So they're 4-1. They play Mount Vernon tomorrow.
Big game for the girls.
And if I was a betting man, I would put my money on Anacortes.
I would too. Big game tomorrow night.
And I am a betting man.
I was going to say, you're a betting man. What are you talking about?
So if I was allowed to bet
If you were allowed to
on
bet on
high school sports, I
okay,
would
there
put a
we-
lot of money down on our girls.
Actually, so are you? I can't imagine that there's anywhere that takes legitimate bets on high school sports anywhere. Is there?
Prep schools? No, it can't. No way.
No.
I can't imagine.
College only.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about if you're a betting man? How are you feeling about the boys' game tomorrow night?
Well,
It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. I'm not nervous. I think we're going to win. And there's a few listeners who are big fans, but they're also good friends. Tori, Steve,
Yep.
Ryan Keys, Trent Keys, Troy Holmes. I think we're going to I'm confident. I was going to say something, but I'm not. We're going to win.
It's going to be good. And
It's going to be fun. And it's
and-
just the atmosphere is going to be good.
like I texted you and Steve yesterday, I think no matter what happens, it's going to be interesting.
Correct. Ruck?
You know, I'm the most removed from both programs and know the least about basketball. So I don't think anyone cares about my opinion. But, you know, I think this might be my first appearance at a basketball game this year. I might be there
Well,
in person.
we've only had two.
Well, I know.
The
but
first
also,
home game.
I
So
mean,
it's
including girls' games. 'cause
It's
they've had
different, you know. We're the first. It's the first time that we have the Linden effect,
Oh, yeah.
where we had to postpone these games, and everyone else is playing. Like this is like Mount Vernon's 5th or 6th game.
Yeah, and you've even seen it in our first two games, even though we won by 30 and 20. You could see that we weren't. It looked like our first two games.
Yeah, and we have kids that have had, as of today, 8 practices.
Yeah.
The other kids have had 20.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Hey.
And hey, just real quick, if we win, Tori, you're going to be 0-2 for the week, just like I said. So it's going to happen, I think.
Wow.
Something he's got in common with the Ducks this year. 0-2.
Hey, real quick, there's some great photos and memes that I'm starting to send out to the Oregon Duck guys because I don't care now.
I'm just glad you know what a meme is. That's awesome.
And I know how to spell it, M-E-M-E.
I'm proud of you.
Not a mime.
So, you know, looking at some of the stuff on our list, what do we got up next? Do you have some shout outs for listeners? You know, we got some mailbag stuff recently. Josette Curtis, Ryan Metcalf. Oh, Ryan. That's not who I meant. I meant
Ross.
Ross, thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan is his son.
Yes, I know. Well, I had in class. That's probably why.
And what is our email address again?
Our email address is theviewfromtherock@gmail.com. So, hey, we appreciate you sending information in to the mailbag, and we are going to be responding to your suggestions. You know, I hear a lot of information from another loyal listener about how we're doing on the podcast, Emily Fisher. Thanks for all the feedback. Who else do you guys hear from?
Well, it's constant. I hear in the morning at weights. I hear from Coach Jack. We had a great category suggestion this morning from Jody Schaefer at weights that we're actually going to use as our top 3 today. So it's constant. The digital footprint of the View from the Rock continues to amaze me.
And we're going to expand. We're going to have video, I believe.
I'm gonna try to make that happen.
I know.
You're gonna have to move where you sit though in the
That's
studio.
fine. I'll move wherever you want me to move, Ruck.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that. Hey,
Well, real quick, there's
okay.
the secret podcast.
Oh yeah, tell us information about that.
So Friday, December 22nd,
9 days from today.
We have a time for that? Set in stone?
1 o'clock.
Beautiful.
That time is a little fluid.
1 o'clock is going to be, you know, arrival, maybe just hang out for a half hour, maybe go live at 1:30.
Silent auction at 1.
And
no silent
there, whoever comes to the secret podcast will get
Swag.
a gift. And if you don't come to the secret podcast, you do not get that gift.
If you don't come to the secret podcast, you get Jepson's Malort.
Yes.
Or as Jason would say, you can suck it.
You know what I do every day when I wake up?
I do.
Piss excellence? Is that what you're going to say?
Yes.
Okay.
You almost said pith
Pith.
because you were thinking about Jepson's Malort.
Yeah, because it's so bitter.
Yeah.
It's ruined my palate.
You've
forever.
had 3 like little mess ups already, Ruck.
What are those 3?
Pith.
Okay.
And then there were
In the
two,
beginning.
there were 2 others.
What, just that when I started the podcast, I couldn't say the right things and
Okay.
no one will hear it on air?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not on the air. And where again is the secret podcast?
We're at the Anchor, and we would love for anyone to come, and it's going to be you buy your own drinks. And,
I mean, it's going to be standing room only.
and you make sure to tip very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to be a good time.
We're going to have a few funny things too.
We
It's
got some
gonna happen.
surprises
Yeah.
in store.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be big.
And if you need any more information, just talk to us.
Yeah. Either hit us at theviewfromtherock@gmail.com, or if you've got our number, use it.
And the first 100 people are allowed in. After that, you're not allowed.
100 capped.
Yep.
Okay.
Really?
That's what the owner of the Anchor has said.
Occupancy.
I'll be
Okay.
damned.
100 people only.
I'm surprised it fits 100. to
Get
be
there
honest.
early.
So, can't wait.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazeballs.
Maybe even breathtaking.
Yeah.
Astounding.
This week, for our musical genre, we decided that we've already talked about 1988, one of the greatest years ever. That's when I was born. We talked about 1975, the year that Morgie was born, and now we're finishing it up. 1971, a great year, the year that Mr. Patrick Swapp graced us on the earth.
Mr. Swapp, what's your middle name?
Edward.
Patrick Edward Swapp, born October
15
1971.
in the year of our Lord, 1971.
Beautiful.
Yep. And I'm getting old. You know, the other night we were sitting at the Burlington game, and I had to ask my wife, "How old am I?" I couldn't remember if it was 52 or 53.
Well, didn't she make a mistake one year?
She's never made a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Good choice.
Yeah. So, like all these years, when we start digging into the music of that year, what an amazing year. You know, as we looked into this, there's some great albums. What's one that, Ruck, what's one that jumps out at you from 1971? I know that you were negative 17 years old, just a twinkle in your mother's eye at that point. But what's something that jumps out at you from that year?
Well, real quick, I think Ruck's dad graduated in 1970
I think that's correct.
with my dad.
Holy crap, really?
Yes.
Man.
Yeah. That's
It's a thing.
I know.
I'll be damned.
Okay, Ruck, what do you think? What do you got?
Well,
Like if you had to pick,
but my number one's going to be someone else's probably number one.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
You're
well,
first.
Out of this, the greatest albums by far, we've actually talked about this album. Led Zeppelin 4.
It's one of the greatest albums of all time.
It is breathtakingly good.
And that's not just us saying it's one of the greatest albums of all time. It's one of the greatest albums of all time.
I'd
That's
say
what all the critics say.
it's
Yeah.
a cornerstone of classic rock. It has probably the most known rock song across all people, and that's Stairway to Heaven.
Yep.
That's if you start playing guitar, especially maybe acoustic or whatever, one of the songs you try to learn, you aspire to learn early on, Stairway to Heaven. To the point where if you go to play it and some people kind of know a little bit about guitar, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're going to play a Stairway to Heaven?" And you're like, "Oh, ooh."
But
awkward.
that song, everyone, even if you don't like rock or you don't love classic rock, you know that song. Everyone knows that song.
Absolutely.
Like my grandparents would know that song.
Totally.
But every song on it is good.
So when you look at a few more on that album, one of mine that I love is When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one.
And Bonham is amazing on that one.
You got Black Dog. You've got Rock and Roll
Going to California.
with an aching in my heart.
That's
And
so
the
good.
Battle of Evermore.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great, that is a top, for me, that's in my top 10 albums.
Well, and you just going through all of those songs, not to mention some of the ones you left out, like Misty Mountain Hop. Like they
Yeah.
have such a wide range of sounds, from almost blues to rock, to folk, that it speaks to whatever kind of listener you are, unless you don't have ears to hear.
Morgie, did you see what I sent you last night? It was not from Zeppelin 4, but it was Zeppelin. They were doing In My Time of Dying.
Yes.
And it was just seeing them live. Wasn't that just amazing?
Yeah. So 2001, I believe, 2002, they did their last concert together in London. They did a 2-night show, because I have the DVDs and the CDs. And that was before kids.
Was Jimmy Page still playing? At that
Yes,
point?
no,
Okay.
the whole entire band played except for John Bonham. His
Right.
son, Jason, was the drummer.
Oh wow.
And it was a 2-night show, and they said, this is it. Minimum $1,500 a ticket. Like, I almost wanted to go. That was that would have been a bucket list.
Absolutely.
Because they played at the Kingdom, I think, in like 70, 71.
I mean,
a bunch of times.
We did top 3. Did we do top 3 bands that we wished we'd seen, or we said
Yeah,
the
we
bands that
did.
we wished we'd seen?
I think we did.
and
Or did we just
said
think
something
we did?
about that?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a top 3
Because Zeppelin
genre.
would be.
I mean, that's there.
I mean, I love it. I love that. Like, but my number one song for Zeppelin is No Quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not on that album.
No,
But it's a
but
great
just-
song.
yeah.
Great bass line.
Yeah.
Album from 1971, maybe my favorite, other than Zeppelin 4, because I think that's in its own category, is Aqualung, Jethro Tull. This came up on a previous podcast. I really didn't know it was came out in 71. But you've got Aqualung, Cross-Eyed Mary, Locomotive Breath. Those are probably the 3 best-known Jethro Tull songs.
So you think the 3 best known songs of the whole entire band are on that album?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's probably those 3. There's one
Ian
on
Anderson.
Ian Anderson playing the flute. And that's one I think any of our listeners should do a deep dive and YouTube some classic Jethro Tull, because those guys were amazing live.
We were just watching one the other day,
Yeah,
and it was mind blowing.
they're so good. And I was fortunate enough to see them.
What?
Yeah,
What year?
1991.
Really?
Yeah, in Seattle. And it was just
I don't know. Are they alive still?
yeah. Ian Anderson will still do. I mean, he's almost 80. But he'll still do some concert stuff where I think he kind of will talk, and then they maybe do a song, and then he'll talk some more. But Aqualung was the whole thing was kind of their take on religion and organized religion. It was kind of a concept album, which was a
Well,
thing.
I read that today.
Yeah.
And then I heard that he said no.
He said it was not a concept
Yeah.
album. So one of my favorite songs on that album is called Wind Up. And it's all about, like, one of the lines in it is, I'm not the kind you like to wind up on Sundays. And he's talking about, church and organized religion.
Wow.
Yeah.
So getting wound up, does that mean like having a good time?
Like a wind up toy.
So he doesn't want to get going on a Sunday. Is that kind of what he's saying?
Like he's not the kind of churchgoer that you wind up like a toy and goes to church on a Sunday.
Oh, he's always spiritual, just not on a Sunday.
I think it's actually been described by some critics as an album that explores the distinction between religion and God.
Interesting. So they're British.
That's. Oh, you just blew my mind.
I just blew my own mind.
They're British band.
They are.
Okay. So something that always stood out to me with them was their incorporation of the flute.
Yes.
right? And now is Ian Anderson the one who's the flautist?
He is the lead singer and flautist.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
he plays the flute like nobody in the world has ever played the flute. You'll hear guttural noises coming out of him while he's playing the flute. It's amazing. Turn the solo
can
on.
you just say he's the guy that plays the flute,
Why?
not the flautist?
He's a
What's
flautist.
a flauta though? That isn't that.
No, a flutist it's a flautist.
It is. It's a flautist.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
I think it's spelled the same but pronounced differently.
I think there might be an A in there before the U and the first syllable.
I can look.
Oh, I
can
love
look
it.
up.
Okay, you
Yeah.
ready? I'm
Yeah,
ready.
Go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 2 since I was last place.
Okay, it's like a snake draft.
Yeah. So I'm snake drafting. I'm going 3-4. So what do we got, Ruck?
We confirmed flautist is spelled Flautist and is a flute player. Now, it also says which one is correct. Flutist is the far more common term in American vernacular, and flautist is more proper in British, which would make sense then that we would call the British band that's got a flute player a flautist.
Okay.
But
I'm
can I
not-
just, before you go, can I just say, if you're a listener and you haven't listened to the flute solos
Ever.
in Cross-Eyed Mary and in Locomotive Breath, turn the volume up and listen to it. It's not like anything you've ever heard.
Turn it
Yes.
up to 11.
Yes. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start off with The Who.
Oh.
Who's next? Because 2 of those songs are
I know
deep
what
to
you're
me.
going to say. I
Are
know.
deep to
yep,
me.
and I know why.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the first one is Bob O'Reilly, and the reason why, first of all, I love that song, but then Pearl Jam and Eddie
Yep.
Vedder, his idol is for the band is The Who and Roger Daltrey. And so he sings that. I've seen it 6 times live, which is amazing. But Behind Blue Eyes is breathtaking. When you listen to that song, it's different.
We need to talk about the Who more
Yeah.
It's true.
as a society.
Yeah. And then Won't Get Fooled Again. And that ended up being the number 1 song on CSI. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Yeah.
The
What do you-
original CSI Las Vegas.
So what do you mean by number 1 song?
Well,
there?
it was the
they
song.
used it the most.
They used it on that show, and that show ended up being number 1. So the Who made a lot of money off of that.
Oh, gotcha. I love that song.
But
But Bob O'Reilly, they're like galloping melodic parts of that song are unlike so many other songs.
but then you think the person that doesn't know the Who, they think the song is titled.
Teenage Wasteland.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
right. You know, when I was a kid, that's what I thought for a while too.
So yeah, that's an amazing album. So I'm gonna go now. I'm snaking to number 4.
Mm-hmm.
L.A. Woman, The Doors.
Yeah, that one's I like that one. It's
Yeah.
meaningful to me.
I spent a lot of years in my early 20s listening to The Doors, and L.A. Woman is an amazing song. Riders on the Storm.
I love.
So if you ever watch The Doors, the movie, like Swapp said, if you want to watch Ian Anderson and being a flautist,
Good
did I
call.
say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
The same thing with Jim Morrison and The Doors. Like just seeing how that happened.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
You know, Val Kilmer, that's one of the great performances I've ever seen. He became just Jim Morrison.
Yeah. And so when you look at what happened to him when he was younger, like when he made Riders on the Storm, they were driving and there was some conflict with the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw and just went through that. Love Her Madly.
And L.A. Woman itself is a great
L.A.
song.
Woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, whose turn is it?
Love that.
Ruck's turn.
Well, yeah. So when I was looking through all these different albums, for me, all of these are obviously going to be it's like historical reading. But then I see some of these.
How old do you think I am where you're referring to the year of our Lord 1971 as
Historical reading.
Well, for me, like I'm reading about these artists that in a lot of ways I don't really listen to that much anymore. There were times where I did. I don't mean to say you're old and decrepit. That's not my purpose.
Well,
in saying
what
that.
is it? What does it mean, real quick, though? A historical reading.
Well, I feel
More
like
than
there's
50 years.
there's just like a nostalgia for me a little bit because I don't listen to this as much as I used to. So for me, I saw that there was a David Bowie album and Changes was on that album. The album's called Hunky Dory, which is a way of saying that, things are okay. Everything's hunky dory. But I love the song Changes. I think in general, that album's kind of looked at for him in my reading as sort of a transitional time for him as far as changing the tone of how he was playing, but it was one of his most well-received albums. So just being able to pull that off really speaks to the talent of musician that he was.
I think he's underrated.
I agree.
Not a lot of people talk about Bowie
No.
because he was just, the makeup, he was
It's
different.
crazy.
Yeah. But some of it, yeah.
Well, are we ready to move on from Bowie?
Yeah, we can. I would just say the other songs that are well known on there, "Life on Mars" and "Oh You Pretty Things."
Oh, wow. So I'm going to throw a couple at you here. We had, in 1971, we had a studio album from Bill Withers, Just As I Am. The late, great Bill Withers. Ain't No Sunshine. I mean, you talk about a song that has soul.
Yep.
Ain't No Sunshine. And then speaking of soul, Janis Joplin, 1971, Pearl. You had Mercedes-Benz, you had Crybaby, and then maybe one of the top 10 songs of all time, Me and Bobby McGee.
So would you put that in your top 10?
My top 10 is getting pretty deep.
So like my wife would say, my top 10 is 30.
So Me and Bobby McGee,
And my top 3 is 6.
Me and Bobby McGee was one of my dad's favorite songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Same, I think, for my dad.
Really?
Love that.
oh, it's
Yeah.
a great song. You know,
I think people that time just loved Janis Joplin.
but you know who wrote Me and Bobby McGee?
Well, I know because I looked it up.
Chris Christopherson.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now it says there was another guy who wrote it, Fred Foster, but I don't know.
Don't know
so
who
it
that
doesn't
is.
matter.
The
Yeah.
Grateful Dead have a pretty good version of that song.
Okay.
Isn't it crazy that her and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison all died before 32?
I think they were all 27.
Wow. It
Like,
makes me
what
feel
the
old.
hell happened between 22 and 27 for them?
A lot of life.
Oh, all right. Swappy?
I think it's your turn.
Oh, all right. Let's see.
But if you need me to jump in,
No, I got.
I mean, at this point, I almost feel like there are some albums that are out there that
So
are
I got
that are
one
fine,
more.
but like there's a lot of singles, or at
So,
least songs that I really know well.
Okay, I got it. So this is one of my. They're dear to my heart. Black Sabbath,
Nice.
Master of Reality. When you listeners, if you've never heard Sweet Leaf, when you first hear it, you're going to be like, "What the f is going on?"
There's a little cough in the beginning.
Yeah,
Wonder what that would be from. What Sweet Leaf is that?
but yeah, who is that though? That's what I want to know. I mean, when you hear
Who's
that,
coughing?
you're like, Sweet Leaf.
I would just like to point out that you tested me before the show.
I know,
Hey,
and you
guess
got it.
what song, and I nailed it.
He nailed it. So
within
I
5 seconds.
tested Ruck, and I said, "Hey, listen to this song right now. I'll give you 2 seconds or 1."
I was
And
amazed.
He knew immediately
I was absolutely amazed.
because if you
Floored.
know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Black Sabbath changed rock, like hard rock, everything. Everyone probably has a little influence from Sabbath.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Iommi, is that how you pronounce his last name? Iommi?
Is that the guitarist? You're saying?
Yes. Like just his riffs.
Then who's the other
Randy
guy?
Rhoads.
Geezer Butler.
Yeah, Rhodes wasn't there back then.
No, but he was later on. For
Yeah,
just
for
Ozzy.
Ozzy. And then Children of the Grave. So
Yeah.
that's I love some Sabbath.
And
I mean, even though I'm not on this album, but like Iron Man, like every kid probably could say that.
yeah.
You know, when you hear Ozzy, I am Iron Man.
Yeah, War Pigs.
Yeah, War Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
That's great stuff. Speaking of, real quick, just on a side note, how is he alive? Ozzy.
you know, I think drugs got him to where he's at, and drugs are keeping him alive, probably, right?
Remember the show? That was like
The
30 years
Osbournes?
ago.
Keeping up with the
That's
Osbournes.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Sharon.
And his kids, I mean, they were just a mess.
Yeah, I wonder where everyone's at now. They've
Yeah.
all pulled it together.
So, hey, let's just spitfire some songs
yeah.
out.
Well,
do it.
some songs from that year. We've got What's Going On, Marvin Gaye. We've
Yep.
got
Imagine, John Lennon.
Take Me Home, Country Road, John Denver.
Oh,
Joy to the World, Three Dog Night.
You've got A Friend, James Taylor.
Maggie May, Rod Stewart.
Wild Horses, Rolling Stones.
Oh, so the Stones, they had that, and they had Brown Sugar.
They did, same year, same album.
So Superstition, Stevie Wonder. I love that
Ooh,
song.
love
I love
Stevie
that
Wonder.
intro.
So Isaac Hayes, the Shaft soundtrack.
Shaft.
Oh.
Man.
Have you seen Shaft, Ruck?
The original or the one with
No, the
Samuel L.?
original.
No.
Starring Richard Roundtree.
Wow.
Don McLean, American Pie.
That's, yeah.
So
You've got Day After Day, Badfinger.
I've never heard that.
You would know it if
Never
you
heard of
it.
Badfinger?
I
So I also,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say a band or a musician that I really loved when I was growing up. Because I think one time we're on a road trip as a family. My dad bought he bought 2 albums. One was Moody Blues. Love Moody Blues.
Moody Blues.
Number
Moody
2.
Blues guy just passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And the other album he bought was Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits.
Oh, yeah.
And so Cat Stevens had an album came out this year, Tea for the Tillerman, and one of my favorite songs, Wild World. Love Wild World.
Oh, man. What were a couple other...
Hey, I got one that swaps, because when I was growing up, I listened to Gordon Lightfoot all the time with my parents, but they didn't say, this is Gordon Lightfoot.
Right.
They're like, this is a cool song. If you could read my mind.
Yeah, it's a great song.
I haven't really listened to Gordon Lightfoot much at all.
So you need to. And did you listen to Warren Zevon that last break? when you
Gosh,
said
No,
you
he
were
screwed
didn't.
gonna-
that
He
up.
did not.
No. Can you text me and remind me?
Yeah, I will remind you. And then did you watch Boogie Nights?
Then
I think we
here's the
should
issue.
watch Boogie Nights in Yellow Dog Studio together.
And live podcast?
I don't.
It'd be interesting.
That would be secret
Well,
podcast material.
how do we describe Roller Girl?
That'd have to be secret podcast.
Okay.
I'll try to watch it. I've actually
John C. Riley.
Well, some of the issue that I have with watching some of these movies is that they're not always available on any streaming service. And so I would have to actually purchase them
For $5.
or rent them for like $6.
Sure, yeah.
You could probably buy it.
You're good.
So you would not.
You're
Well, there's so many to find. I can kind of rotate through a bunch of them looking, but I didn't ever actually look for Boogie Nights.
So Boogie Nights, and we've talked about this before, is because the content of the movie, I think people who haven't seen it have a tough time conceiving of what a good movie it is. It is an amazing movie, amazingly filmed. It is a great movie, great cast.
And remind me, this is Mark Wahlberg.
Yes, he
John C. Riley. William Macy.
Is
Burt Reynolds.
John Favreau? Is he in it? Do you know who that is?
No, he's not
I
in it.
do know who that is.
Don Cheadle is in it. Julianne Moore, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Heather Graham
Heather Graham plays
is
Roller Girl.
Okay.
Just think about that name.
Yeah.
Just roller skating around, having fun.
Wow.
Okay. I'll try to make that happen. I'll try to make that
it
before
happen. We might just do it together. Like put a list together of movies during break, and we spend 3 hours watching them, and then talk about them on the podcast.
Hey,
You know what? That's a great idea for content.
I like that. I just would point out one little loophole or one little flaw in this. We struggle as it is to get together to record this dang thing as much as we love doing it. So the idea of adding more time on feels like a mountain.
Break is kind of wide open.
Well,
Hey, I just looked at what
You guys are
Cat
family
Stevens
men,
put
so
out.
I know.
I just looked at what Cat Stevens put out in 1971. Morning is Broken.
oh, that's on that album?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Morning is Broken.
I would almost sing it right now, but that's an easy one to brutalize. Moon
Like
Shadow.
first. Oh, those are all on the same album?
Yeah.
I didn't look beyond
Moon
that.
Shadow,
Wild
Moon
Wild
Shadow.
World. That's a great album.
I think.
What are you looking at me for?
No, I'm just
Get out of here.
No, I'm just thinking back. There's a couple people that we need to say hi to.
Okay.
The Hazes.
Yes.
I spent Monday night Tiger Hawk with them. It was a great time. They're excited for the Secret Podcast. The Keys brothers, Troy Holmes, all Mount Vernon guys. They're coming over tomorrow. I think I'm confident, Swapp, that we're going to win.
I'm just looking forward to it just as an event. There's not it's not like the Husky Oregon game where the fate of the universe depended upon it.
Yes.
I think it's just going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and our kids are involved.
I mean, so for me, one of the fun things too was that getting to see your two kids competing on the floor at the same time. That was pretty fun for me to watch. So I imagine it's cool for you guys too.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah.
So next up, after the break, we're going to be talking about our beer of the week and our top 3 athletes that we would like to meet. Welcome back to the View from the Rock podcast. We are going to get into our beer of the week at this point. Our beer of the week is from Lost Coast Brewery in Eureka, California.
That's not Yreka.
I was having the same thought. You've
That's
been to both?
Eureka.
Yreka is also a place in Northern California.
It
Really?
is.
Yes. They have I've been there to the Black Bear Diner. You've
I'll
been
be
there?
damned. No.
So the Black Bear Diner is
It's a chain
all
kind
over.
of. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's
They
like
have
the
good
only
food.
restaurant they had.
But there's a Yreka and a Eureka.
Yreka is one of the first places that's a decent sized city when you come across the border from Oregon, right?
Yeah,
Really?
you come down out
When
of
you
the
come out of the-
Siskiyous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go into Yreka.
So I've only done that drive twice
I've done it
in my
twice,
life. Swap?
Twice.
All
Rose
right.
Bowl, and then a road trip. And on that second road trip with my family, we found our way to tonight's brewery.
Wow.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So
Yeah, tell us about it.
The Lost Coast IPA is a smooth, full-bodied, unfiltered ale. True to the Lost Coast style, our IPA has a wonderful flavor, like a session ale, balanced by radical bittering to give a unique, pleasant aroma. Untapped has it 6.5 ABV.
Mm-hmm.
And again, alcohol by volume,
Correct.
38 IBU.
International bitterness units.
Yes.
And that's low
Low.
on the scale.
And 3.64 out of 5.
That doesn't surprise me. You know, it's not one that you find that often in stores. We'll see when we taste it if we agree.
But we did find this at a local establishment,
We did. I think Steinman's maybe should be one of our next sponsors.
and I will talk to them because I know them very well.
I bet you do.
New ownership recently. Yeah.
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Good family.
Yes, and one of their guys, John, who works there at night with a beard. He knows everything about music.
He knows a lot about a lot.
So we talk every night. Not every night. Where every time I go in there.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, I understand that could all be almost every night.
No.
Hey,
So go ahead.
I was going to say, you said Lost Coast. And I was a little lost when you were talking about that. Do you want me to talk about what the Lost Coast is?
Real quick, yes. You talk about what it is.
Okay. So I think it's referring to that coastline there that is along that Eureka area. I think it's referred to the Lost Coast because that area experienced depopulation in the 30s. It was sort of an area of California that was lost to others. I think it was related to challenges of building along the coastline for the state highway, for county road builders. It was just kind of underdeveloped portion of the coast because that whole California coast is at least tries to be big time.
So I think about that
kind of isolated
in terms of like the coast for Oregon, Washington, but it had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a rugged area. It's not warm. It reminds me a little bit of up here with the climate. Harsh, the water's harsh, the climate's a little bit, they're not going to get snow and stuff necessarily, but it is kind of a harsh climate, windy, rugged.
It's sort of like, it's more similar to living in Washington compared to the rest of California, I would say. So it's sort of like if you want to live in Washington but pay more taxes, then that's maybe where you want to live.
So we went there. We were on a road trip as a family, and it's kind of a stepping stone to the Redwoods.
Yes.
So we were staying down there. It was either McKinley or McKinleyville, and driving one day to the Redwoods, and we passed the Lost Coast Brewery. And I was familiar with it because my dad would always have, one of their beers is the 8-Ball Stout.
Yeah.
And my dad was,
Really?
my dad was a big Porter Stout guy.
Yeah.
So he would often have an 8-Ball Stout in the fridge. And so I knew the Lost Coast Brewery, and I remember driving past it and saying, that's a freaking Lost Coast Brewery. So we ate there.
So is it just right off I-5?
It's not I-5. It's I want to say it's 101, but it might not be 101.
So it's more west.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's
So
one of
it's-
those highways. I would say it's 101 because
Yeah.
I also
Or
stopped
101
there.
or 1.
Yeah, could be. I stopped there also on a road trip one time. I was coming up north from, he's
That's
holding
number
up
4
fingers because I've misspoken. At this point, we just don't keep track of Jason's because he does it so often.
No,
whereas
whatever.
I'm Mr.
Hey, you know what?
Unlimited, apparently.
Quit. Hey, it's okay.
Anyways, I was with my friend Joel Kirkpatrick, brother to the other Kirkpatricks like Jackson and whatnot, and we were just starting our road trip because he lived in the Bay Area and we were heading all the way up here to Seattle. So it's a great little spot. Also known for their Great White. I think it's a wheat beer, or pale ale, or something like that.
And they have, this is their kind of their house IPA, but they also have the Indigo IPA,
No,
which I've had
Not
a time
in-
or two.
not indica, indigo.
Indigo, that's correct, not Indica.
Well, hey, yeah, let's
try it.
And I think Humboldt State,
Oh, are they there?
I don't know if it's in Eureka, but it's,
That's that area.
maybe Arcata.
I don't know. I could probably look
Humboldt
that
is
up.
a famous name.
I think Mark Twain, maybe.
I don't know.
I associate Mark Twain with Humboldt County.
So there's definitely Humboldt County. Are you wanting me to look up Humboldt State, like university, or just the county?
Maybe both.
But when I drink this beer, it's not a session.
No, sessions. I
But
mean,
it says like
I know.
it's like a session.
they have their purpose though. They're normally a nice lower alcohol. This is only a 6.5, which
It's-
in the world of the IPA is on the lower side.
Yeah,
a lot of
it's-
them are
it's
7 or more.
It's a nice.
So what brewery makes the all-day IPA, the session IPA that's the all-day IPA? You're with me on that though, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, It's not. Is it Rubens? No,
Might be.
it's not Georgetown. So Humboldt County has Eureka in it. Also has Redwood National and State Park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answers your questions that you had about it. What were you wondering about Humboldt?
I don't know. I had a lot of wonderings.
Okay.
Founders makes the all-day IPA.
Oh,
Yes.
where is Founders from? Is that a local? Is that
Well,
one of those Ben
I can
breweries?
answer that shortly.
So Founders.
Founders.
I'm just looking. it
Yeah,
up
and while
right
you're
now.
looking for it, I would say that this is one of
Michigan
I had
Oh.
no idea.
those. Wow. This
and
is one of those.
American IPA ranked 2,900 in all IPAs in the U.S.
That's probably pretty high.
I didn't know
So-
they ranked IPAs in the U.S. We might. That's going to be fun.
Oh, we should work through that list.
Oh, we might have to get back on tap swap
That's a discovery right there.
because we are legendary.
I feel like we dropped the mic at 1,000.
But
Shouldn't pick it back up.
I know.
Yeah.
Could
If you
we?
were,
There's no way that we could get to 2,000.
come on, you guys are like the Led
Would
Zeppelin
it take
of
five?
Untapped.
Would it take 5
We need
years?
some more live shows.
It would take 5 years.
It wouldn't take that long.
We're older. It would take 5 years
It would.
So what
for
do you think?
1,000.
What do you think about the taste of this? When I taste it, it's not super hoppy. I understand a little bit why they say it's a session. I think it's super drinkable. I think it's. On
I
the
love
malt-
it.
I think it's on the maltier side, which I actually like.
Yeah. I mean, I would drink this in May, June.
What would you pair it with?
I think some smoked salmon would go nice with this.
Ooh.
A little smoked salmon on the Weber, the Morgie style.
I was thinking some pepperoni.
Oh, like duck
Little
pepperoni?
duck pepperoni.
Yeah.
of course.
So
A
there,
little greasy.
we might even have some duck pepperoni going at the secret podcast to pass out.
Wow, are we allowed to?
I
do
just
that?
have to okay it with Papa
Yeah.
Pat, but he doesn't listen, so he can suck it. He has never listened to
Wow.
any episode.
Why?
Have you asked him to?
Does he know
Eh,
how?
Maybe he thinks that you don't want
He
him
knows how, but he doesn't. Doesn't care. It's all right.
I'll be damned.
He might come because my sister's coming, and Megan's coming, is her wife, and my mom might show up.
to. Patty.
I'm gonna make her come.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are we going to get to our top 3 athletes we'd like to meet?
If we are, we better get there soon.
I'll start then. Number 3. I was trying to think about, when we're going top 3 athletes, we prefaced this is someone that we're going to have in the studio. We're going to talk to for an hour and have some beers with. And I could have went with just like a Rushmore of top 3 athletes, but this first one I think could fit on a Rushmore. Serena Williams. Probably, I would go on a limb and say the greatest female athlete ever. One of the greatest athletes ever. I don't think you can ever definitively say who the greatest athlete ever because it's just so hard to compare between sports. But her dominance in her sport of that time, I think it's hard to find an equivalent where it just felt like when she went out there, she was winning and that there was nothing anyone else could do about it.
Yeah. That's a great call.
I think she'd
She-
also be fun to talk to.
Just that whole family history.
Did you guys watch the movie?
Yeah,
What was it called?
The Will Smith one?
where he was he the dad?
Yeah, Will Smith's the dad.
Okay.
But just the 30 for 30, like I think they had a 30 for 30
There's
on
been some
Venus. I mean, think
documentaries, yeah.
about how Venus feels. She's amazing,
And she's the older sister, and she was
amazing.
awesome. Yeah,
and her little sister is better.
I mean, not just better. I mean,
So you put her as the greatest female athlete of all time? She's there.
and
The list is probably 3 or 4,
yeah.
and we didn't think about it. before this, but it would be fun to think about.
Greatest female athlete.
Yeah.
That'd be a great topic.
Yeah.
Because you know who I would have on there? Morgie, you want to give you one guess?
No, I don't.
This would be who I would say is the Bill Russell of female athletes.
I was going to say like Cheryl Miller.
Sue Bird.
Okay.
I was going to say Taurasi.
So Sue Bird has won how many championships?
I mean, her longevity is
Well, so
unrivaled.
because if you go to Connecticut from 1994 to 2010, you're a winner. Period.
yeah.
True.
Period.
And
So
I'm fascinated by winners.
Yeah. But what about Sue? I think the other girl was with us for the Storm who left.
Lauren Jackson.
No.
Yeah.
From Australia?
No, Lauren Jackson was amazing, but no, she played at UConn, and she's now with the Liberty. She was with us at the Storm.
You've said more WNBA things in the last 30
So who's
seconds.
the girl that played for?
I know who you're talking about.
She just left the
yeah.
WNBA. She just left the Storm, and went to New York, and she's playing with the girl
Brianna Stewart.
Brianna Stewart.
Oh.
She won 4. They won 4.
And she's playing with
Sue Bird won 3, but Sue Bird is amazing.
I feel like she's the Bill Russell of female athletes.
She's an absolute star.
But yeah, Brianna Stewart.
Yeah.
Gosh,
She's got 7 titles before she went pro.
you're making me regret in some ways choosing Serena Williams only because Sue Bird would be a great interview on a podcast with some beers.
You know
She'd be
what?
electric.
I think all of them would.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, you ready for my number 3?
Yeah.
My number 3 is Larry Bird because he's from French Lick, Indiana, and he drinks beers that I would drink. And he drinks beer, and I think it would be fun to have him on and just say, how much fun was it from 79 to 86 or 88? Like, just say, how much fun was it? The stories.
Yeah.
Red Auerbach, like just a little, just a cut. Just give me 2 stories, and then the Showtime show from HBO, where they're trying to maybe depict the history.
Yeah.
He's sitting there with Magic Johnson, just drinking beers in the corner.
I mean, that rivalry, Larry and Magic, is one of the most iconic rivalries in all of sports because it's not only college, it then continued into professional.
It saved the NBA.
Yeah.
Magic, Larry saved the NBA in the early 80s.
I mean, I can't think of another, and it's not saying there isn't one, but right now, off the top of my head, can you think of another college rivalry that continued into the professionals and both being at the highest level competing for a championship?
Well, it was so different then because guys played college for 4 years.
Yeah.
James Worthy played at North Carolina for 8 years.
With Jordan and Sam Perkins.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a household name for 3 years in college.
Yeah, and that's what you did.
And now guys, you don't even know who they are.
They go 1 year.
Or none.
No, I know.
Well,
yeah. So, yeah, but Larry Bird, he would he's a normal guy. Like, he would be a guy from Concrete.
Yeah.
Woolly.
Would love to just talk to him.
Yeah. And just say, hey, let's have a couple beer. Like, I think he would drink animal beer.
Oh.
I don't know what that is.
Schmidt.
Oh.
So you don't know what animal beer is?
No. What is that? Like hams?
Schmidt.
Yes.
Is it only Schmidt?
No, it's...
What
I think
what
it's only
defines it?
Schmidt.
What?
I'm going to Google it. You guys talk. I'm going to Google this. I think animal beer is only Schmidt.
Okay.
Well, so
So
why,
animal beer.
why would it be
that-
called animal beer?
Because there's animals on it.
Yes, on the can.
Oh. Is there
So people
lions on it?
like my aunt and uncle were animal beer drinkers.
Okay. That's fascinating. Schmidt's not easy to find these days, is it? Does it still exist?
So according to Google, there's other beers besides animal beer. But if you Google animal beer Schmidt, so Schmidt has like ducks on it and deer,
Deer,
and
elk.
fish. I mean, that's why it was tremendous marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there other? What are the other beers?
Well, there's when I Googled animal beer, there's like animal IPA. So it's a bunch of
Gotcha.
So
bull
yeah,
crap.
so yeah, Schmidt.
Okay.
So number 2 for you, Rock.
Wait,
Well,
we got number 3 for Swapp.
So my number 3 is Bill Russell.
Former Supersonics head coach, right?
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by winners, and there's never been a greater winner than him.
That's
he's
a fact.
the greatest winner of all time in the NBA.
Yeah.
So University of San Francisco.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
2 national titles.
The Dons.
Yep.
I would just like to talk to him and just say, talk to me about
Winning.
and what it means to be on a winning team.
And imagine him in Boston during those years.
What he had to go through.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Boston is
He
still renowned to be a racist city to their current athletes. I can't imagine back then.
Anyway, your number 2, Rock?
My number 2. Sorry. My number 2 had some waffling on that one. I decided to go with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal might be, during his peak, it could be argued, the most dominant athlete of the sport they played. I'm not saying necessarily his career was the greatest. You could measure it by wins, say with championships with Bill Russell. But there was a time where the sport changed because of him. People invented ways to defend him that they never have used since to defend someone, really, not at least as aggressively. And that was just that he couldn't make foul shots. He had some sort of mental block, but was so dominant in every other way that you'd rather have him just go to the foul line. Like, he was unrivaled.
I don't think he has a mental block on the free throw.
He had something going on.
I think that his hand is so big that he looks like he's holding a small ball when we are.
I understand why you're saying that, but
Yeah.
that's not, I mean, from what I heard over the years was that when he would practice, he would make 80% of them, and he would get in the game and make 55. He just had something going on in games. I understand what you're saying, though. It's a tiny little ball.
You know what? I went through it for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. I mean,
I was 80% at Skagit, and I had an air ball.
you know,
And then it just changed me for like 2 months at Pacific.
hey, it speaks to the mental
Yeah,
part
the mental
of all
game.
sports. That is my favorite part and the least coached, at least intentionally.
Yeah.
Harvey Dorfman,
Oh, yeah.
I don't, what?
the king of sports psychology.
Oh, I need to look him up.
Yeah.
Harvey Dorfman.
Okay. In addition to Shaq, just being a dominant athlete, he is hilarious. Like I will happily tune in to watch NBA on TNT, more so to see him and Charles Barkley going at it, who was almost my number 2, because they're hilarious. More so almost than watching any professional basketball. Their back and forth is dynamite. That's my number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is Ted Williams. No longer with us.
American hero.
Yeah. Maybe the greatest hitter in the history of baseball. Wrote The Science of Hitting, which my dad bought for me when I was a kid. And I remember poring over that book. And some of the stuff that he talked about, I think is a lot of the stuff you see on Twitter now about hitting is very Ted Williams-esque. I would love to talk to him about hitting And then, like you said, Rock, he was one of the greatest. He was a great war hero. He was a fighter pilot.
So what do you think now has changed that Ted Williams is coming back?
So
with hitting?
his thing was the ball is coming down at an angle. You need to swing slightly up at an angle so that you're meeting the plane of the ball. And, you know, that was not traditional. But it is a little now when we talk about launch angle and things. So I think he was a little ahead of his time there. I would just love to talk to him about that and talk to him about, you know, what do you think of this high launch angle stuff? Because he had his head wrapped around hitting in a major way at a time when people weren't really thinking about it.
And he was what's it, 400 and what?
Last 400 hitter hit 406 in 1941.
That's wild.
And lost 500 home runs, but he lost a good portion of his career to the war because he was out fighting the war.
Which war was that?
Two. Yep.
Okay. Hey, hats off to him.
I heard a story about him like going somewhere when a kid was 16. Was it Pujols or someone? And he's like, that guy's going to be
There's a
amazing.
video right now circulating on Twitter where he's watching Mike Piazza.
Oh, Piazza. Okay.
And Piazza looks like crap.
Yeah. And he said he's going to be good.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
And Piazza's just getting beat up by a pitching machine.
And everyone hated him. So my number 2, Charles Barkley. He would be so fun to hang out for an hour.
Great time.
So I didn't meet him, but I saw him at a bar in Portland. He is a very large man in terms of below the waist. I mean, can I say he has a very large ass?
Gotcha.
Okay. He is a monster. 6'6". But for his size to do what he did, and then now what he, the TNT show, I would love to just hang out with him, talk sports.
You would be laughing every
I would
second.
love to. I just want to hear what he has to say about him and Michael. Because
yeah.
they don't talk.
Yeah.
Right? It's been, 15 years? 20 years? Like, he said something bad about Michael, and he'd be so fun.
I imagine those two personalities just are not similar enough to get along. Polar opposite.
But they were best friends.
Really?
Yeah.
And then he said something and that was it.
Yeah.
Was that brought up in the last dance?
Swappy, correct? Like,
Yeah.
they were 92 Dream Team, amazing. And he basically called out Michael and said, "Hey, you're doing this wrong," which is true. And Michael couldn't handle it, I think.
And what was
they haven't talked since.
What was that in relation to? That he was do you remember?
Maybe the ownership.
Oh, that would be something he would be sensitive
Yeah,
about. I would
maybe.
imagine.
But yeah,
Swap number 2. Or did you go number 2?
I
It's
did
me.
number 2.
I'm number 1.
Yes.
I am number 1. Okay,
you are.
Marshawn.
Oh.
Marshawn Lynch. How could there be someone better to talk on a podcast for an hour over beers? Although
he would
he'd
be
probably
so
have his
fun.
like Cavassier or what is it that he
La
drinks?
Cavousier.
Cavousier.
Yeah. La Corvusier.
Yeah.
He would be so much fun.
Have you had that before, Rock?
No,
You've never had Cavassier?
Corvusier.
I don't think so. No, he drinks Hennessy. That's what it is.
Have you ever had Hennessy?
Ooh, I don't think so.
I've had Hennessy. I have too. Me too.
That's amazing.
I think that
What else have you not had? Have you had Malort?
we've all tasted the fine fruit of Malort, and
Pith.
Hey, guess what?
It ruined
it's
my
better
palate
than
for a
Tara's
while.
beer. Tara, I had to give you a shout out because if we don't, you'll cry.
Is she going to be at the secret podcast?
Maybe she might have a hair appointment, I heard. So she's trying to reschedule.
Wow.
Holy crap. Go on, Ruck.
So Marshawn, not only would he be a wild experience because of all of his Hennessy drinking, et cetera, he'd be on a different plane than us. He's also lived a different life than us, a different part of the country than we've been in. He talks in a different way than we do, while also going to one of the great institutions in college, Berkeley.
He's smart.
Like he's highly intelligent.
Yes.
But
Dumb like a fox.
But like he has a way of talking that is just he says so many things that you've got to think about for a second, and then you understand what he's saying. Like when he says, you got to get your chickens. You kind of think about it and you go, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But also, he would have stories that he could tell us that we want to know answers to, and we probably haven't heard them. And if we weren't being recorded, I'm sure he'd happily tell us all the answers.
So East Oakland, him, Gary Payton, Too Short.
Wow.
Right? Is that the
Yeah.
greatest three? Like East Oakland.
Wow.
And they're all tight.
Wow.
I mean, think about that run against the Saints.
Well, I mean, he has so many iconic moments. There's that run. There is when they won it at Berkeley, at Cal, and he's driving the cart all over the field.
Was that against UW?
Oh, I don't know.
Might have.
Yeah.
But
We had a tough
his
time
quarterback
against
at one
Cal
point was Aaron Rodgers. Could you imagine that in college? The quarterback is Aaron Rodgers.
But he
and
wasn't good in college. He was okay. He wasn't great. Aaron Rodgers was not great. Do you think he was not? They never won a Pac-12 title. He was good. He wasn't great in college.
Hey, why didn't we give Marshawn the ball against the Patriots? Can we just say that?
I'm still.
I think that there's
it's going to haunt us forever.
Forever.
We're never going to win another one.
Top 3 worst moments of my freaking sports viewing career. That's all 3.
I try not to focus on that handoff for a couple.
I broke a glass of beer on my outside cement
So
when that happened.
I'm not an apologist for not running the ball in that scenario. I just try to understand why someone might end up making that decision. And when you look at, and I've heard them talk about this, they came out on their field in their goal line defense. They were expecting us to run the ball. I realize we have one of the best offensive lines at that point. We have the best running back, but they are giving you things offensively where you go, hey, like this is, like we should do that and then we can come back and run it. You're not expecting that you're going to throw the ball and throw an interception. That would be why I understand why they might have done what they did. Because of course, if you know how, if you know you might throw a pick, then you just want to run the ball every time. I get it.
But if you think about it, if we win that game, Jermaine Kearse's catch is top 3 all time.
Yeah.
Well,
He's with Tyree. Is it David Tyree or
Tyree.
Tyree? Like
well, and Odell
Jermaine
Beckham.
Kearse's catch is amazing, and it's never going to be talked about ever
Yeah.
because we lost. If we win that game, that catch is on NFL films every year.
Well, and more importantly, I think it continues into next season, and now there's a dynasty. Because
Sherman
at that
would not
point,
leave. We would. They.
The team was broken apart.
Yeah.
They were not going to get back together and be
You know.
productive.
Hey, it's okay. We'll be all right.
Number 1, Morgie.
Let's do our number ones at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. Mine's Larry Bird.
Mine's Bill Russell.
Yep.
So when I was 12, I got to meet him downtown Seattle 3-on-3 tournament. And I'm like, Mr. Russell, can I get your autograph? And he says, no, but I will shake your hand. And I'm 12 and he's 6'11", My parents are standing by me. We don't have a phone. There's no cameras. And I just shake his hand, and his hand, he's like got two hands of my one hand at 12 years old.
Yeah.
And he's got 3 rings on his hand of his 11. And he said, no, I don't sign autographs, but I'll shake your hand. And that was it. Shook his hand and then left.
Yep.
He would be just you remember that photo of him, Muhammad Ali, Kareem, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and
Jim Brown.
yes, fighting for just activism and rights.
I almost put Muhammad on my top 3.
But just look at that photo, like them, those 4. I mean, I would just take those 4 for an hour.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't expect you guys to have heard of this, but there's such a thing called Substack. Substack is an app. It's also a website. It's in some ways similar to X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has his own Substack. Like he basically blogs is what it is. He has
So
these
it's a blogging app.
long form posts that you can comment on, and he is incredibly eloquent and well written words that I'm looking at going, I'm not sure if I know what that means.
Well, we actually tried to reach out to Kareem, Swapp and I on
Yeah,
Twitter.
we did.
And he didn't respond to us.
No.
But
Yeah.
so
So tell us about yours. Swapper.
No, we did. Larry Bird.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
What's
Why
your
is he
perspective
number
on
one?
number one, Larry Bird?
Just when I was thinking about it, he was the guy that I thought if I'm going to sit down and have a beer with somebody, an athlete, it would be Larry Bird.
I mean, he seems like a real guy.
Yeah.
He's one of us.
Yeah.
Just happens to be 6'9" and can shoot the shit out of it. Excuse my language, kids.
Yeah.
I definitely can't do those things.
That was a great topic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think our next thing that we have coming up, is it going to be the secret podcast? I don't know if we've got another one before then. Do we?
We don't have one scheduled, but you never know.
Never know. Well, as always, this has been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Reminder that I want to thank our sponsors, Sign Dog Northwest and Merle Inc., for sponsoring the show and making this possible. If you're able to make it to the secret podcast on December
22nd
at 1:00, there'll be some special swag for that we'll be passing out, and swag that will be able to be purchased as well.
Possibly. We will have
Hopefully.
swag. Yes.
Yes.
So, if you don't hear from us before then we hope to see you on December 22nd. Reminder, this podcast can be listened to on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Until we see you, stay safe.